Hello again everyone, welcome back to ptet.chemistry channel. My name is Dr. On. In this tutorial video, I'll go through this 9701 Cambridge International A-Level exam. This is an older exam series before the introduction of the really big revamped syllabus in 2016. So this was just before that, and I will highlight whatever questions that are no longer relevant to the new syllabus as I go through this particular paper. This is paper 2-3, so it's paper 2 variant 3 for this June 2015 exam. In this first question, neon is a noble gas, so we need to complete the full electronic configuration of neon. These are the full configurations. As you go across the first row of the periodic table, you get 1s2, then you have to fill in the new shell. In the S block, there's lithium and beryllium, and then you will go to 2p6 because this is the sixth element in the P block. It actually has got 8 electrons in the outer shell. As you know from IGCSE, GCSE or O-level chemistry, 2-8, these are the IGCSE, GCSE and O-level configuration. These are the configuration we use in AS as well as A-level chemistry. In this second question, what is meant by the term first ionization energy? I know they don't ask you for an equation, but the thing that I usually teach my students is to write an equation first. So I'm just going to use X here. The gaseous atom of X will lose 1 mole of electrons, and you will get X plus cations. This is gaseous cations. By writing this equation, you will be able to define it as the energy required. So first ionization energy is the energy required because to remove electrons from what it is attracted to, which is the nucleus which contains the protons, is going to take energy. It's going to be endothermic always. It's the energy required to remove 1 mole of electrons. We focus on 1 mole instead of 1 electron because this thing has a unit of kilojoule per mole. Per mole of what? Per mole of electrons being removed. And you are removing from what? From 1 mole of gaseous atom. So if you look on the left hand side of the equation, you have 1 mole of gaseous atom and you are removing it from 1 mole of gaseous atom. So this is usually your second point. And what is your third point? What are you forming? To form 1 mole of gaseous ions. I know different textbooks that will have different sort of definitions. I'm just going to run you with my definition first. Gaseous ion with a +1 charge. So this is the same thing I do with all my other topical playlists, as you will see with the rest of my channel. So I see 3 points here. Like I said, different textbooks will use different definitions. They can say 1 mole of gaseous monocation, which means single cation. They can talk about singly positively charged gaseous ions. I simply choose to use a simpler language, easier to understand. Gaseous ions, it is gaseous, it is ions, it has a +1 charge. That's it. I mean, I'm just defining based on the equation and there's nothing wrong with it, and you cannot fault an answer like this as well as any sort of answers from a textbook. They all mean the same thing only. Explain why the first ionization energy of neon is greater than that of fluorine. We know that in general, our first ionization energy trend, in general, they increase across a period. This is across a second period. We know it will increase, drop slightly as you go to the p subshell, drop slightly again as you have paired electron repulsions, and then it goes all the way up to neon before you fill in the new shell, and therefore it will drop all the way down there. So that's lithium, and we know this is group 2 to group 13, so beryllium and borons. We know there's going to be nitrogen and oxygen where you have paired electron repulsion, and here you have the electrons filling in the p subshell, which is further and more shielded compared to these valence electrons in the s subshell. But this question is not asking you on those specific drops. They're asking you on fluorine versus neon. Fluorine versus neon. So from fluorine to neon, what actually happened? Okay, there are 2 marks to this. So we have to talk about essentially why the first ionization energy increases from fluorine to neon. So from fluorine to neon, we can talk about the number of protons. So I should really use full words instead of abbreviation. That was what I was used to. Number of proton increases. So the number of protons will give you your nuclear charge. So your nuclear charge would also increase. And as the nuclear charge increase, what can we say about shielding? Shielding will be roughly constant, so approximately constant, meaning they are not changing. And that's simply because the electrons are filling in the same shell and the same subshell there. So the valence electrons are filling in the same shell. The valence electrons fill in the same shell. That's why there is not much shielding difference there. Overall, the net electrostatic force of attraction, the net electrostatic force of attraction, well, essentially the effective nuclear charge, that's why it's called the net electrostatic force attraction. This is between the protons in the nucleus and the valence electrons, would be stronger. Stronger for neons, therefore more difficult to remove. Higher first ionization energy, therefore higher first ionization energy. Straight to the point there, in terms of shielding be the same or similarly constant, but the nuclear charge increasing, the overall net effect called the effective nuclear charge will get stronger for neon compared to fluorine, and therefore they are much harder to remove. The new syllabus also mentions something about size as well. You could also say that as a result of this stronger net force of attraction, neon will be smaller in size than fluorine, although that is not actually true. If you have the actual data booklet, you will see that neon is actually bigger in size than fluorine, just like argon is actually bigger than chlorine, but you're no longer given the data booklet in the new A-level chemistry exam, so there's no way you will know something like that. So that's why I avoided talking about the size. I just talk about the net force of attraction there. The next question, neon has 3 stable isotopes. Your job is to find what is the missing mass number here. We don't know this number here. It's a whole number based on this, 2021. We don't know whether it's bigger than 21 or smaller than 20. We really don't know. But what we know is it's not the most abundant. The most abundant one is isotope 20. So it makes sense that your relative atomic mass, which is defined as the average mass. This is defined as the average mass of all the isotopes. And this is relative to the atomic mass unit, which is defined as relative to 1/12 times the mass of one atom of carbon-12 isotope. Okay, so what is important there is that this is average mass, whereas the isotopic mass are these specific mass which are not average for the individual isotopes compared to 1/12 the mass of an atom of carbon-12 isotope. Now we gotta use the relative atomic mass of neon, 20.2. It's very close to 20 because isotope 20 is abundant in close to 90% there. So we know the relative atomic mass is equal to the mass number times the percentage abundance. So 9.25 times x plus 90.48 times 20, and then 0.27 times 21. The whole thing added up together, and you will get out of 100%, as these are percentage abundance there. As I move up the 100 from the bottom to the top there, so what I get is I get 20.2 times 100, and I just get 9.25x. I get 90.48 times 20 plus 0.27 times 21. I will get 1815.27. Of course, then I just need to move my whole number to the other side. 20.2 times 100 is 2020 minus 1815.27. My x is going to be that thing minus that, and I get 204.73 divided by 9.25, and I get 22.13. Of course, then they don't tell us how many decimal place, but then we look at the data provided. This will in whole number for the mass number. So I'm gonna round this up to the nearest whole number just to be consistent with the data given. The next question, this looks like ideal guess questions because you have a mixture of neon and argon. You want to find the average MR of the mixture. So we get PV equal to nRT. But we know that the N stands for the number of mole, so that is mass over MRRT. So to rearrange that, MR is going to go up, and then the PV is going to come down. So it's going to get MRT over PV. So when I get all of that, so what I get is the mass, well, the average mass, the mass combined for both gases there, 0.275 gram. My R will be given in the data booklet, although they are not separate now. They'll be given at the end of your paper 2 booklet, of course. So 8.31 joule per Kelvin per mole, or joule per Kelvin per mole. The temperature must be in Kelvin. So 25 degrees Celsius convert to Kelvin, you have to add 273. This adds up to 298 Kelvin. Now our pressure is 100 kilopascal. So kilopascal have to be converted to Pascal. So now I have 10 to the 5 Pascal. So it'll be 1 times 10 to the 5, something like that. And last but not least, we have our volume given in cm cube. This is one of the trickiest one. But 1 cm to convert to meter is 1 divided by 100. And you can represent this in terms of indices. So 1 divided by 100 is 10 to the minus 2. What I'm going to do is I cube both sides. This is usually my favorite method because I do not need to memorize any conversion factor apart from my primary school conversion factor, change cm to meter, divide by 100. I also know how to cube both sides. 1 cube is 1, cm cube is cm cube, 10 to the minus 2 cube is 10 to the minus 6, and this is meter cube there. So overall, what I get is I convert my volume from cm cube to meter cube, by multiplying by 10 to the minus 6 meter cube. I'm not going to write all of this again because I've just spent some time writing this value on the side. What I do now is I just press my calculator based on what I have written down, and that's perfectly okay because everything is laid out perfectly like that, rather than me wasting my time and doing all over again. So I've done the top bit. I'm going to divide by, oh no, I've done the top bit but I accidentally clear it. Just give me a minute. So okay, and then divide by 10 to the 5 divided by 200 times 10 to the minus 6. Make sure you know how to press this on a calculator. 200 and then exp, that means times 10, and then you press minus 6, and then there should be 200 times 10 to the minus 6. I get the MR of 15.01. They don't talk to us, they don't tell us about how many significant figure, but looking at the data, like the mass 1, 2, and 3, 1, 2, and 3, I can think of this as 3, I can think of this as 3, or can think of them as 1 significant figure. I'm going to leave my final answer to 3 significant figure, just to be consistent there with the data given. So the unit of MR is actually going to be gram per mole. This 15.0, well, it's okay, I guess, because neon has a relative atomic mass of around 20. I wonder if I've done anything wrong. Let me just double check my calculation. 25 plus 273 is 298. Okay, I better check my calculation. This seems a bit low. Perhaps I made a mistake. 31 times 298 divided by that, divided by that. There you go. I know I made a mistake because, if you think about the relative atomic mass of neon, that is going to be around 20.1. So, how can my average MR be lower than that when argon is heavier than that, okay? But these are just intuitions, and I've done chemistry for a longer period of time than you as a student, I guess. So perhaps that was why I could spot this kind of inconsistency. Since I made a mistake once, I'm just going to double check my calculation again because, if I can't make that mistake, you can possibly make that mistake as well. Not saying that you will, but, there's that potential that you might make that mistake as well. So just keep an eye out for this kind of stuff, yeah? Now the next thing, what is the percentage of neon in the mixture? Use your answer to 1. What is the percentage of neon in the mixture? So let the percentage of neon be X, let's say. And then we know the relative atomic mass of neon was 20.2. So that's 20.2 from the previous question. Therefore, the percentage of argon will be equal to 100 minus X because you have neon and argon. So if this is 100 minus X percent, and do we know the AR of argon? Yes, we do from the periodic table. 39.9. 39.9. So what we can say is 20.2 multiplied by X plus 39.9 multiplied by 100 minus X divided by 100. That is going to give us 34.1. I am not sure if I'm going on the right way. So I'm talking about like the average mass. When I combine these two together based on the percentage present, it's going to give me this average MR. So based on that, I'm going to move up the 100 to the top. I'm going to get 3410. And I can evaluate the left hand side. 20.2x plus 20.2x, that is not going to look right. 39.9 times 100, that is 3990. So I have just expanded the bracket there. And then I have minus 39.9 plus 20.2. So 20.2 minus 39.9, that is minus 19. 19.7x. And I can do this calculation, I guess. So 3990 minus 3410 is equal to 19.7x. So x is going to be the percentage of neon. So there's 580 over 19.7. There could be an easier way. I don't know whether I've done the wrong way or not. So this is 29.4%. This is the 3 significant figure. So give or take, you can see that the 34.1 is much closer to the argon, which is a bit heavier, rather than closer to the neon, which is a bit lighter. That's because you probably have a lot more argon compared to neon, and that shows because around 30% of this lighter one and 70% of the heavier one. Okay. On to the next question. So neon and argon can both be obtained by fractional distillation of liquid A, just like we could get liquid nitrogen, or we can separate nitrogen and oxygen from the air by using fractional distillation because they have different boiling point. So this neon is a noble gas that exists as single atom. So both of them exist as single atom. Name the force that need to be overcome to boil, and explain what causes it. So we are looking at something called van der Waals forces. In the new syllabus, in the 2022 new syllabus, they have changed these to have been renamed. Not really renamed, they just added a few things. You can call them London dispersion forces, or instantaneous dipoles, or temporary dipoles. They all mean roughly the same thing. Explain what causes it. So there are electrons inside the atom. So we're talking about the monoatomic or monatomic noble gases. And then this induces temporary dipoles. Those delta plus delta minus on the neighboring or nearby molecules. Sorry, not molecules, nearby atoms on the neighboring or nearby atoms, and hence the temporary dipole name, which is also known as London dispersion forces or van der Waals forces, which arises as a result of electrons inside the structure, inside the molecule, inside the atom. In these cases, they are not static. The electrons are always moving, and as they move around, they can create or induce temporary dipoles on the neighboring or nearby atoms. Last but not least, you also have argon. Argon has a higher boiling point than neon. That is a result of argon has greater total number of electrons. You will see that there are 2 marks. So greater total number of electrons in the atoms. So the van der Waals is stronger. But that is factor number 1. There is also a second factor, which is to do with surface area. Argon has bigger size because it has 1 more shell. So 1 extra filled electron shell, as it is further down in the group 8 or group 18 in the noble gases group, and this is compared to neon. Therefore, bigger surface area due to the bigger size. And both of these factors result in overall argon has stronger van der Waals or stronger London dispersion forces between the atom. Stronger London dispersion forces, or you can talk about van der Waals, slightly more energy to overcome. Or to break, and therefore, it has slightly higher boiling point compared to the other simple monoatomic structure, which is also true for both noble gases. It just comes down to which one has a greater total number of electrons, as well as which one has a bigger surface area. And that's the end of the 18 mark question there.